بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد وعن أبي خبيب عبد الله بن الزبير رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال لما وقف الزبير يوم الجمل دعاني كنت إلى جنبي قال يا بني إنه لا يفطر اليوم إلا ظالم أو مظلوم وإني لا أراني إلا أحسن وإني لا أراني مظلوما. Has been recorded by Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi in his Sahih. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhuma, he is the son of Zubair ibn Awam radiallahu anhu and Asma bint Abi Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anha. He was the first of the Muhajirun to be born in Makkah, in Medina. When the migrants migrated to the Jews started to say that due to black magic, no Muslim child would be born. That's why when Asma radiallahu anha gave birth, the Muslims were overjoyed. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam did the tahniq. The first, you will chew the little piece of date and place it in the baby's mouth. So the first thing that went into the blessed mouth of Rasulullah of Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiallahu ta'ala anhu's mouth was the salam of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His grandmother was Safiya radiallahu anha. Safiya radiallahu anha is the paternal auntie of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So hence there's that relationship as well. So Zubair radiallahu anha is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's cousin. So subhanallah, he's from that family. And we discussed his salah a few nights ago as well. Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu, he was known to be a very strong and a brave individual. He was fast in abundance. He was an ardent worshipper. So his father is Zubair ibn Awam. Abdullah ibn Zubair's father is Zubair ibn Awam. His mother Asma radiallahu anha. His auntie is his khala. His auntie is Aisha radiallahu anha. So he had a great relationship with his auntie as well. He has a brother Urwa. So Urwa radiallahu anhu is known for his scholarly pursuits and his, mashallah, being a great scholar who learned a lot from Aisha radiallahu anha as well. So Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu, he speaks about the incident or the time when, and this was in the aftermath of the Shahadat and the martyrdom of Usman radiallahu anhu, when there was a little issue within the Muslim ranks of how to deal with the murders, how to deal with the murderers of Uthman radiallahu anhu. And a little issue broke out, and unfortunately there was a bit of a fight that was started and initiated by insurgents and Munafiqun. So it was at this time that this scene plays out. So he relates that my father stood in the Battle of Jamal. My father Zubair radiallahu anhu, remember Zubair radiallahu anhu is from the Ashar al-Mubashshara, the 10 who were promised Jannah in one sitting by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why I say one sitting is because there are others who were promised Jannah on other occasions. But the Ashar al-Mubashshara, the one that we say the 10 promised Jannah, that was a specific time the Prophet was sitting and he said, Abu Bakr fil Jannah, Umar fil Jannah, Uthman fil Jannah, and he counted all 10. And they are known as the cream of the crop, right? They're the highest among the Sahaba. So he says that my father called me and I went over to him. He said, oh my son, none will be killed today except an oppressor or one who's oppressed. And I think I will be killed as one who is oppressed. I can see it, the writing is on the wall basically. And then it so happened that he realized that what was going on and what was taking place, he was leaving and someone came and attacked him and killed him. He says, my greatest concern is my debts. My greatest concern is my debts. Do you think that any of my wealth will remain after all my debts are settled? And then, so subhanAllah, he's on the battlefield and he's worried. Remember, we're discussing amanat and trust and those things that are upon you. So when you have a debt, you got to pay back. When you're not dead, you got to pay it back. So here he is concerned now. So he calls for his eldest son, right? Basically, the one who's going to handle his affairs after he departs. I'm afraid of my debts. And then he's having this call, oh my son, sell all our possessions and pay off my debts. Sell all my possessions and pay off my debts. And then he said he made a bequest of 1/3 and 1/3 of that for his children. For the children, not for his children, because you can't make a bequest for your children. He's talking about his grandchildren, the sons of Abdullah. The reason being was Abdullah, all right, we're going to get to this. It says, if anything is left after settling my debts, then the third of it is for your children. So the one of the narrators, Hisham, mentions that some of the children of Abdullah were the same age as some of the children of Zubayr, such as Khubayb and Abbad. At the time, Zubayr radiallahu anhu had 9 sons and 9 daughters. So it's like what happens when you have, and he had 4 wives, and he has 9 sons, 9 daughters. So Abdullah radiallahu anhu is the eldest. So his children now are of similar age to some of Zubair's younger children. So of course they grew up with their grandfather, and they would have spent a long time with their grandfather. So grandchildren will not inherit in the presence of a child, right? That's what happens. So a person, so Zubair radiallahu anhu, who's going to inherit from him? His wives and his children. His grandchildren will not inherit. But as they were along the same age as his own children, and probably he had a lot of love, and he would be with them and seeing them all the time, and they could also, because now they're of that age, and they can also make use of the money and whatever inheritance is there. Hence, he also because they would inherit, makes a bequest for them, and you can make a bequest from 1/3 of your wealth, right? So a person can save 1/3 of my wealth, but that you can't say that goes to an inheritance. That has to go to someone who is not going to inherit. So you can't make a bequest that 1/3 of my wealth goes to my son or my daughter. So if you have a son and daughter, right, and usually, especially the son cancels out nearly everybody else. So once you have a son and daughter and your wife and stuff, then you can say, okay, you know what, 1/3 or from 1/3, because you're only allowed to do this from 1/3. So then you can say, okay, give that to say something to the masjid or to this nephew of mine, like this brother of mine, etc. etc. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu, he says, my father continued advising me about his debts. So that's the worry, right? What's going to happen? I got debts, I got to pay them back. I got to fulfill them. So Abdullah, you're going to have to look after them. And he said to me, oh my son, if you are unable to settle any of the debts, he said, إن عجزت عن شيء منه فاستعن عليه بمولاي. If you're unable to settle any of the debts, then seek assistance from my Mawla. And Mawla is a term in Arabic that refers to master, right? It refers to master. That's one of the meanings of Mawla. So قال والله ما دريت ما أراد حتى قلت يا أبتي من مولاك. So he says that he continues telling me these things. Continue reminding me that if you're unable to, ask assistance, seek assistance from my Mawla. Seek assistance from my Mawla. So Abdullah said, I wasn't sure of who he was referring to when he said Mawla. So I asked that, oh father, oh my beloved father, Ya Abati, beloved father, who is your Mawla? He replied, Allah. Allah. Well, this is tawakkul, it's reliance, right? And this is when a person does good, because we're going to come and see how much good this man used to do. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu said, after my father had passed on, anytime I basically faced any type of difficulty in sending the debts, I used to turn unto Allah and say, oh Mawla Zubair, the master of Zubair, settle his debts on his behalf. And Allah Ta'ala will settle them. That's all. Anytime there was any hiccup, right? I would turn, oh Allah, you settle it, Allah will settle it. Zubair then further continues. Zubair was shaheed, he was martyred without leaving a single dinar or dirham, except some properties. So you don't have physical, you don't have cash, you don't have a cash flow. He had investments. And what were these investments that he had? Among them was land in Al-Ghaba, 11 houses in Medina, 2 houses in Basra, 1 house in Kufa, and 1 house in Egypt. Right? So he has properties. He has properties and he has properties in some of the major Islamic cities of the time. He doesn't have cash. He has properties. He's passed away, he has debts. So what has to be done now? You gotta repay. And remember he had instructed his son that what you do, sell the properties and you repay. Now, the question would be asked that how can a great Sahabi like this fall into debt? And fall into debt of this nature that he is so worried and he's saying basically sell off everything that I have and repay my, the debtors. So then he explained. He says his debts were incurred when a man would come to him with some wealth and ask him to keep it in a trust. Zubair would say to him, no, I will not accept it as a trust, but as a debt upon me. I will not accept it as a trust because I fear that it might be destroyed. So what's happening here? Zubair is a very, very noble man. As we discussed a few days ago as well, in those times there were no banks. So when people had excess money, you can't keep it at home because somebody might steal it. So you go to a noble person, a person who's not gonna touch that money. And you'll say, no, please, keep this for me. If you're traveling, you'll say, please, keep this for me. Zubair radiallahu being a noble man, people love him, people know his greatness, his brave, his heroic, subhanAllah, all of these great qualities. So they would go to him and say, Zubair, can you look after this? Well, I want money for me. Can you look after this thing for me? So Zubair radiallahu will say, I'm not taking it as an amana. Give it to me as a loan. Now what's the difference? This, when you read this, right? This, you see, subhanAllah, the Sahabi, he is so amazing. So amazing. All the Sahaba are amazing, right? Now at this point, why did he do this? Because there's a difference. If somebody comes to you and says, listen, I'm going overseas, I got $5,000 here, I want you to hold it. I don't want to put it in the bank, I want you to hold it. It's a trust, it's an aman. Look after it, and the months I'm going to come back, you can give me back there. Because when I come back, I don't want to go to the bank, come back at night, I'll need it for the next morning. So you just hold on to it. When you give someone that as a trust, and they say, no problem, they'll look after it. Once that person who you've given it to, he doesn't destroy it out of his own, due to his own negligence. And if it was destroyed, you see somebody say, no problem, he took it, and he placed it in one corner of the home. And then Allah protect, a fire broke out, destroyed the house. That money, 5,000, is gone. Because it was an amana, the fire is not due to your own doing. You don't have to pay back anything. It's gone, right? You're not obliged to say, oh, the man can't come and say, where's my 5,000 I gave you? Brother, I put it there. Fire broke out, everything is lost. But you got I was taking out stuff from I couldn't even get to your money. It was in one corner of the room. On the other hand, if somebody gives you a loan, okay, here's $5,000. You take it as a loan. You put it in the house. You didn't even get to use it yet for whatever you need. A fire breaks out, burns everything down. You have to give that man his $5,000 back because he took it as a loan. That's the difference. So Zubair radiallahu anhu, he used to say, listen, don't just give me money as an amana. Because if something has to happen to the wealth, then you're not going to get back anything. And I don't want that to happen to you. So I'd rather that give me it, I'll use it however I want, and whenever you want it, you just come ask me and I'll give you it. I'll give you back the money. Also, it's been mentioned, when you're given a mana, say somebody comes in and gives you $5,000 in $100 bills. You're not allowed to go and change that and say, you know what, I'm going to make it in, I need hundreds, so let me exchange. No, you can't. Those same $100 bills that I gave you, you have to give them back. Because in Amana, remember I said, Amana you can't touch, that's not yours. If somebody gives you a debt, you can do what you want. Because no, at the end of the day, you got to give them back 1,000. Right? If 1,000, you got to give them back 1,000, however, you got to get back 1,000. So Abdullah Zubair radiallahu anhu, he was very generous. And he would look after people. There were some families who were under his care. Some Sahaba, they even had requested him that after our death, we look after our families. And he's helping people. So money is coming in. Our brothers, one person is coming, giving him money. He say, okay, no problem, give me as a loan. Okay, he accepts. I say the 1,000. Then he would go to see someone who's needy, he'll give him that 1,000. And he knows that, alhamdulillah, inshallah, I'll get, when that person comes back, after 5 months, 6 months, a year, I'll have more money to give him. I'll have money to give him back. So in this way now, there was a debt on him, but what's happening? Nobody's coming even, right? Nobody's coming forward at this time, or nobody was coming forward. Maybe in that time people were coming forward, but then he would have more money, he would give them, etc., etc. So he's worried now at the time that before he departs from this world, that there's so many people who have given me in this way, and I have to repay them. So sell my properties and repay them first. When a person passes away, the first thing that will be done is your burial arrangements. That goes up from the expense of the person who has departed from this world, right? So the burial shroud and all the arrangements, the grave, whatever else, all that expenses will go out first from their inheritance. After that, you will deal with the debts. Because remember, that's not your money. You owe that to somebody. After that, the wasiyah, the bequests that were made. And then after that, the inheritance will be distributed amongst the rightful inheritors. So Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu, he says that Zubair radiallahu anhu was never in a position of leadership. He never collected zakat and taxes or anything similar. However, he joined the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman in jihad. So it was not that he was a governor, that he was creating wealth, Billah from wrongful means, nor was he a zakat collector. The way he gained all this, the land, and he would have gained money and etc., was he had joined. First, it was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then the Sahaba that came after. He was actively participating in jihad, and then of course, those who are taking part in jihad, they would be given portions of the spoils of war. Then similarly, the Sahaba, they were also given stipends, right? And according to status and so on, they were given certain level of the stipend as well. So Abdullah radiallahu anhu, the son, he says, I calculated all the debts that he owed, and they came to a total of 2,200,000. 2,200,000 gold coins. Hakim ibn Hizam, he meets Abdullah ibn Zubair and he asks him that, oh my nephew, how much debt does my brother owe? Right? So Abdullah ibn Zubair said, I'm feeling a bit shy, and they want to tell the amount, the true amount. So I can't see this. So I said about 100,000. Hakim said, by Allah, I don't think that your assets are sufficient to cover these debts. So Abdullah ibn Zubair, he asked him, what if his debts are 2,200,000? Said, I do not think you'll be able to pay off such an amount. And then subhanAllah, that love of the Sahaba, right? Said, if you have any issues, come to me for help. So the narrator now mentions, the narrator of the Hadith, he explains about Kaaba, that special piece of land that Zubair radiallahu anhu had. It says Zubair radiallahu anh had purchased al-ghaba for 170,000. When Abdullah the son sold it, he sold it for 1,600,000. 1,600,000. And then he started telling the people that whoever has a claim against Zubair should meet me at Al-Ghaba. Anybody who Zubair owes anything, come here, I'll sort you out. I'll give you whatever you have to give it. Abdullah ibn Ja'far radiallahu anhu, one of the Sahaba, so he was one of the youngest Sahaba, probably around the same age as Abdullah ibn Zubair. His father is Ja'far bin Abi Talib, the famous Ja'far al-Tayyar, who is a cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the brother of Ali radiallahu. Right? So these are all Sahaba sons now. So Abdullah ibn Ja'far came. And he says that 400,000. The father was in 400,000. Right? I have that debt. He has a debt. So, and then he says that if you wish, I'll forgive it. Abdullah ibn Zubair said no. He said, if you wish, you can defer it to a later day, pay me after. He said no. Then he said, okay, see this garden land that you still have here? Give me a portion of it, a lot of portion of the land to me, right? That will cover that 400,000. So Abdullah ibn Zubair said, no problem. From there to there, pointed and they discussed and decided, okay, this portion of land is yours. That's equal to 100,000. So in this way as well, he was distributing, was fulfilling the debt. He says he went to Muawiyah radiallahu anh, and Amr ibn Uthman, Mundir ibn Zubair, ibn Zam'a were sitting with Muawiyah. This is when Muawiyah radiallahu anh is the Amir. Yeah, probably when Muawiyah radiallahu anh is the Amir. And he asked him, so Muawiyah asked him that, how much is the land in the Ghaba selling for? Zubair radiallahu anh said 1,000 per share, right? Basically 1,000 per lot. He said, okay, how many shares are still remaining? He said 4.5 shares. So Mundir ibn Zubair said, okay, I'll take one share for 100,000. Amr ibn Uthman said, I'll take one share for 100,000. Ibn Zam'a said, one share for 100,000. Muawiyah then asked, how many shares remain? He replied, 1.5 shares. He said, okay, 150,000, and it's fine, no problem. So that's sold as well, right? Now, the narrator is mentioning, remember, Abdullah ibn Ja'far, he had taken what? The equivalent of 400,000. He says, Abdullah ibn Ja'far later sold his share to Muawiyah for 600,000. So, mashallah, Abdullah ibn Ja'far got a 200,000 profit. Now, remember, so he sells off that land, he sells off the other properties. And he pays all the debts. All the debts he pays off. Those about 2 million plus debts. Now, when the children realize that, okay, Abdullah, our older brother, has paid off all our father's debts, everything they fulfilled, they came to him. Distribute our inheritance. He says, no, not yet. Not yet. By Allah, I will not distribute it amongst you until I announce for 4 years in the Hajj season. Whoever has a claim against Zubair should come to us so that we may settle this. Again, this is extreme cautiousness of the son. And this is a great lesson for all of us, that if our fathers leave a debt, outstanding debt, we take it upon our shoulders and we pay. Sadly, sometimes what happens, and I've seen this, that some children, they're like, that's his. That doesn't have anything to do with us. That was his fault that he borrowed money. Or that was his fault that he ran into problems. And they'll tell the debtors, no, we're not giving you anything. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. Don't you have a person has to have that love, that care, that my father then is going to suffer in the hereafter. And it's not yours. That money is not yours. Because that belongs to the other person. Before you can divide your inheritance, you have to fulfill and pay off all the debts. So Zubair radiallahu anh said, wait, 4 years, I don't say a Hajj. He said, and the reason for that is that because in Hajj, people from all over come. It could be that there's somebody who comes who may not have even known that Zubair had passed away. Or when I make the announcement, they'll remember. Or at least somebody from that area will go back to their community and tell them, say, yes, you know what, we're in Hajj. And that great man, Abdullah bin Zubair, was saying that his father's passed away. and anybody who you owed money to should come and collect it. So at least then the next year that person, if the person can't come right away, they'll come probably the next year and come and say, Bhula, yes, your father owed me. For 4 years he did this. 4 years he did this. So that's the extreme, mashallah, he went to. And after the 4 years, remember the 1/3 that he had to take out, the wasiyah, he took that out, and he distributed the balance among the inheritors. He had 4 wives. Each of them received 1,200,000. Each wife received 1,200,000. What was the total wealth? The total wealth was 50,200,000. 50,200,000. Now, what's amazing is barakat. And they said, why? He's a man that was doing good. He wasn't using the wealth for himself. He's taking money and feeding people, taking money, helping people. And then anybody who wants back their money, he's giving them back right away as well. So what seemed to people initially, or even to the inheritors, and even to Zubair himself, I have so much debt, I don't know what's going to happen. Allah Ta'ala put so much barakah in all of his assets that it totaled 50,200,000. SubhanAllah, the 2 million is nothing. He's able to clear that. So Imam Nawawi Rahmatullah reminds us in this incident, by mentioning this incident, that we remember what's that trust upon us, we ensure that we fulfill. And that's why it's essential as well that if you borrow money, it's not yours. Keep a note of it. Keep a note of it. I know individuals who, after they passed away, when their children came and said, or would have gone to the individual said, listen, our father had this book. He noted each thing he did. Even if it's $5 that he had to borrow, he had it. That's what we have to do. Don't think that we're too young. Don't think that we're too old. Left to anything. Allah bless all of us in our age, in our health, in our life. But keep a note of everything. Keep a note of everything. And then have the intention of paying it back. And inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will put up the way for us. And Allah Ta'ala grant us. The love for the Sahaba, and Allah Ta'ala allow us to take inspiration from their lives. How they are people of goodness and good character, always wanting to help, and how they were very meticulous in every action. We want to bless us.